This is Rob Pirie with the Coffee Runs Deep podcast, where we interview coffee farmers, coffee roasters, and we share their stories. I truly hope you enjoy the experience. What's up, everyone? We have a great episode cooked up today. Jason and I discuss everything from starting a drop shipping business, his thoughts on his luring roaster, and a couple business lessons about cash flow and employees. Truly hope you guys enjoy, so let's dive in. Welcome to the Coffee Runs Deep podcast. I'm your host, Rob Pirie. And today we have a special guest on, Jason Richter with Path Coffee Roasters. And I'm anxious to dive into this one. So Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and let's dive into it.
My name is Jason Richter. I'm the owner of Path Coffee Roasters, actually co-owner. My wife runs the business with me, so we're a family-owned business. We're based out of New York, and we've been in operation since 2013. We focus on specialty coffees and wholesale, retail through our website. We offer a pretty robust drop shipping program as well for people who are interested in getting into the coffee business and starting their own brands. So that's private label. Quick background of mine, I went to film school. My family's been in the coffee business for many generations, so I've kind of been around it for a long time, but my interests originally were in film production, things like that. So I went to school for that and ended up out in Los Angeles for about 10 years, 2000 to about 2012, so about 12 years, I guess, and was a movie trailer editor for a good portion of that time. So found myself sitting in a dark room all day trying to cut together some not so great movies and some okay movies into something that people would want to watch, and just got kind of bored with it, honestly. Turned out to not be well, I never really wanted to be an editor, but I was good enough to do it professionally for many years, but just wasn't my passion after a while, and had an opportunity to come back home to New York and work in the coffee business. And when I did, I started Path Coffee Roasters to really kind of fill a niche that wasn't being really focused on here in our area in Westchester County, New York, which is more of the specialty focused coffees. And we've just been growing and supplying coffee to restaurants, cafes, like I said, through our website. And then most recently with COVID, a lot of people started to get in touch with us about drop shipping, wanting to start their own sort of side hustle. And so we sort of took the reins and really built out a pretty robust program for those people. And we've just been growing that ever since.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. We can go ahead and dive into that now then. For the drop shipping and stuff. So your business now, are you mostly a coffee roaster? Do you have a cafe too, or are you just coffee roasting?
Just roasting coffee.
I mean,
we've dabbled in the idea of opening a small cafe actually out of our lab. In our small town, which is actually called Portchester, there are no cafes. It's a town that is kind of converting over. They're putting up new buildings and things like that. So maybe it'll be something we do in the future. But for now, we don't offer any kind of brewed coffee option. If you order through our website and you're local, we do offer a roastery pickup option, so people can choose that and not pay anything for shipping, obviously, and then come by and grab their coffee. But other than that, we don't have a cafe. We're just a roaster.
Okay, well, gotcha. So before we get into drop shipping, then, do you feel like not having a cafe was beneficial to you because you could just focus on the roaster, or do you feel it would have been better to have a place where people could kind of taste your coffee and stuff like that, or do you even feel that even really mattered?
I have no idea if it matters or not because we don't have one. So, I feel like not having it has probably allowed us to really focus on what we're really good at, which is sourcing and roasting and selling wholesale coffee. At some point, I think it would be a good thing to do for us to really present our coffees the way that we think they should be presented. You do your best as a wholesaler to sort of instruct your customers as to how to brew coffee or what have you. But, at the end of the day, you want to do your own thing and you want to present it your own way. And maybe we'll do that, but I don't know. It might be beneficial if we do it. I probably will be, because people will, have an opportunity to experience us in a different way as opposed to just buying a bag of coffee.
Right.
And I'm sure it would increase our sales, but for now we're not really focused on it. It's sort of on the back burner, and I'm sure it'll come back up at some point, and we'll do it, but
Yeah.
not for now.
So then as far as like drop shipping, what does that look like for y'all then? Like, do people just, I mean, what's your role in that? Are you taking the orders from them, or are you taking the orders from like their customers, or how's all that kind of look?
So if you go, I mean, for anybody who might be interested watching this video, you certainly go to our website, pathcoffees.com, and there's a drop shipping section on that website, and it kind of goes through it. But essentially what happens is
And I'll link all your stuff down below too, as far
okay,
as like your YouTube channel and all that. So I'll put all
yeah,
that in the description
appreciate
and
that.
all that. So
But essentially what happens is somebody will build out their website, create their brand, they'll sample our coffees. There's a bunch of other things, account setup forms and things like that, but we will connect their site to our ShipStation account. ShipStation is a program that we use for all of our logistics, receiving orders, shipping orders. And so what happens is somebody places an order, let's say on your website, and the order just gets pushed to us. And we go ahead and fulfill it in your brand, the coffee that people have requested, ground, whole bean, and we ship it out. Everything is branded with your information on it. The only thing is it does have our return address on it, because if something happens with delivery, it has to come back to us. But other than that, it doesn't have our information on it at all. And the customer gets fresh roasted coffee, which is really nice. And the drop shipper, our customer, doesn't have any inventory. There's very little upfront cost. It's a very cost-effective business to start. Yeah, I mean, we have a decent amount of customers, and we don't advertise. We've just done a decent amount of quality, blogging on our website, good SEO. I think we're pretty high ranking in Google if you type in like drop shipping coffee or something like that. And so we just get customers that way. We haven't spent really very much money at all to get any customers, which has been a pretty good thing.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So then as far as picking coffee and stuff, like, do you kind of give them options what they can choose, or can they go out and like say, hey, can you go and procure this coffee from, say Ethiopia, and then get it in for just them? Like, how does that kind of look?
We just offer what's on our menu.
Gotcha.
They rename the coffees.
Gotcha.
So if we have something from Guatemala and they're interested in offering that on their menu, then they would call it something else. And they could certainly just call it straight up Guatemala. It's what it is. Yeah, we just offer what's on our menu. We don't offer toll roasting, or basically somebody sending us green coffee to roast for them, or we really don't procure special lots for anybody. Just the amount of effort and work.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That would be insane if a lot of, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, I want to do this or that. We do offer a decent amount of customization. If you want to use our bags, our stock bags, and our label printing capabilities, that's great. If you want to get custom bags and custom labels sent to us, we do. We'll keep that inventory here and manage it for you. We try and be as flexible as possible. Some of our customers who are drop shippers also turn out to be wholesalers. They find brick and mortar locations, or they find people who want to buy larger volumes. And so we'll do bulk orders to them or directly to their customers. So, we try and we sell coffee. So, however the order comes in, we'll take it and get it out the door as quickly as possible and make sure it goes out the right way.
Yeah, I think that's such a cool kind of concept, because I get a lot of people always asking, like what's the best way to start and stuff like that. And they just want to get something out, and, a S15 Loring is pretty expensive, and then the setup, and then, so it's like to put out a good coffee like that and get your name out. That's a really, inexpensive and kind of less capital intensive way of getting out there. Like, if you mind me asking, about how many people do you have drop shipping?
It's well over 100 right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And look, not everybody does great. Not everybody sells a lot of coffee. Some people, they start the process and they don't really go very far with it.
Right.
In terms of selling. Some people do really, really well because they put in the effort. Selling coffee is not just like having a website and, the orders just flow in. It's a lot of effort, and people have to do the marketing and all that sort of thing. So for those who do put in the effort, they can make some good sales. For those who don't, then it's just, doesn't really cost them anything.
Yeah.
We don't charge. There are some drop shippers out there, drop shipping companies like myself, who might charge like monthly fees. Even if you don't sell anything, you're paying them. We don't do that. I'm really not interested in taking your money if you're not selling any coffee. We have a setup fee. We have some small minor fees if you do send us like bags and labels to inventory. But if you're just using our stock bags and our label printing capabilities, then you just pay for the bag of coffee as it's listed on our menu, our drop shipping menu, and the exact cost of shipping. We don't mark up shipping or do any pick and pack fees or anything like that. So it's a very simple concept for people to kind of wrap their brains around, and financially it's not very expensive to get started.
Wow, that's a super cool concept.
Yeah, and like you said, it's for somebody who's interested in coffee and wants to start a brand, they don't have to get into roasting. They don't have to learn how to source green coffee. I know a lot of the people that you interview, they start out on small roasters, 800 gram roasters, or move to a small Mill City or a Diedrich or something like that. It's very time intensive. It's not an easy thing to just jump into roasting and sourcing all the green coffee, and then just some people, they start and they're like, it just takes too much time to do this, especially if you're roasting small volumes,
Yeah.
It's like you get a couple of orders and you're sitting there for hours, and it's just like, painstaking after a while.
That, and then like the quality, you got a machine like you got that can repeat roast, consistently. And then, but if you're having to manually sit there for 14 batches and make a coffee taste the same, I think it takes a lot of practice, yeah.
We use Cropster. Obviously the Loring behind me has its own built-in automation and its own tracking software as well. Cropster is obviously a lot more refined. So we really sort of follow Cropster when it comes to sort of creating profiles and storing profiles and things like that. But, if you're doing, 10 batches of dark roast, what we call our dark roast, probably lighter than a lot and maybe darker than some, but, you can automate that, and it'll nail it all the time. You don't have to push buttons on every single one of those batches. And it's great because on my old roaster, which is kind of over here, this old Dietrich right here, which we don't use anymore.
How big is it?
Well, it's called a snowflake. Well, we call it a snowflake. I think other people have referred to it as a snowflake because back in the day, Dietrich would build these roasters kind of on spec, as far as I understand. So they're all a little bit different, and this was one of them. And so it's not extremely powerful. I don't know the exact amount of coffee, but we would put no more than 40 pounds into it at a time, green. And even then, it was a really long roast. It was like 15-minute roast. I mean, that's pretty damn long.
Yeah.
And we did have Cropster hooked up to it at one point, and we added a couple little things. We actually rewired the whole thing. But we had to move on to something a lot more consistent, a lot more modern. I call that my sledgehammer. This is more like a chisel,
Yeah. I was watching your video on the Loring, and it's so cool how, I don't know, just how everything works on them and everything like that. And the cyclone. Yeah. Are you the only one that roasts, or does anybody else there roast with you?
No, I have a guy who roasts with me as well. One of his sort of backup, like my backup, I guess, is a guy named Sal. And he's our head of production, and he also roasts when I can't roast. We're a small, tight-knit group, we put out a lot of product. We've automated a lot of things, and we've really refined our process. But I typically do a lot of roasting, and then he'll jump in if need be, if I'm not here, or we just need to do something and I just can't get to it or something like that. As the owner, you're always doing a lot of other things as owners of any business. You've got a lot of balls in the air, and so sometimes I can't be here to roast a batch or 2 or 10, and so he takes over and does it.
Yeah.
And the reason why we got this machine, frankly, is because I wanted to be able to have somebody else roast. I wanted to make it easy for my customers to get their coffee, and I didn't want to stress out that, oh well, the batch didn't come out right. Or on the Dietrich, It was very difficult. It was literally like you're moving sliders, and you had to almost know this roaster intimately. Whereas the Loring, you can just once the profile is sort of the art. Creating that profile is like sort of the art of roasting. But the production roasting is very sort of monotonous process. So I wanted a machine where I could program it. I could set the profile for the coffee, but somebody else could get in there and roast a lot if need be.
Yeah, so that's what's making me look a lot towards Loring as well, because especially with the world the way it is now and stuff, and like if you want to step out for a second to do something else, go to Origin, you can still have somebody there that can roast in your stead. And that's what I've been looking at that too. So, you basically still, like you're saying, have that art to create the profile you want, find whatever flavor profiles you're looking for in the coffee. And then once you have that, it's pretty much just a kind of a job basically after that to keep putting out the coffee.
It is. And on the old machine, I would roast, let's say 10 batches in a day. Just a number, but you'd be wiped out at the end of the day. At the end of that roasting day, you'd be wiped out, because once you start roasting, you really don't leave the roaster. It's not like you're going off and having lunch and because you start and you don't stop.
Right, it's heated up.
I guess unless you had somebody to relieve you, but on this machine, I had nobody to relieve me. So you were there and you're wiped out because you're always focused on the profile and how is it roasting, and and then on this machine, I can roast 10, 20 batches a day, and you don't feel wiped out. It's a long day. It's also a lot faster, and the between batch time is a lot quicker. This is 3 minutes. This was almost like 10 minutes. So you can imagine the amount of wasted time sitting here just letting this thing cool down, because this machine has very little thermal stability in terms of like holding on to a lot of heat between batches. So it's stainless steel. It bleeds energy. So you're always, the way you roast is a lot different. Whereas this machine, you'd have to, between batches, you'd have to really give it time to cool it down and get it below your charge temp, like decently below your charge temp. And that took a long time. On this machine, you could literally charge the next batch in like a minute if you really wanted to. We have a 3-minute between batch protocol that we use, and that's really just our choosing. This thing you can slam roast if you really need to. We typically don't, but that 3 minutes has saved us an enormous amount of just wasted time in the day versus this roaster here. So yeah, I mean, just it's like night and day. This is like my iPhone, and this is like that rotary telephone your grandmother had.
The old Nokia. Huh? So then, as far as the I guess the Loring. So whenever you're dropping, about how long and about how much? So an S15 is 15 kilograms.
We roast 30 pounds every batch. There's no variation, regardless of the coffee. It's 30 pounds. We go through a decent amount of coffee, so it doesn't bother me. And a lot of times we'll roast on Friday for the next week, especially with espresso and stuff like that. It needs to sit, it needs to rest, needs to degas a little bit, make it more consistent when you're pulling shots and things like that. And we don't roast super dark. So, even letting the, batch brew or pour over coffee rest for a couple of days is really good. And we've tested it out, and frankly, 5-10 days off roast tastes much better than a day off roast. The idea that fresh coffee is better coffee is not always applicable.
Right.
It doesn't always, because there's so much gas coming off that coffee when you grind it and you put hot water on it. It's just, it's like frying chicken or anything like that. It's like, you want those bubbles because you don't want the fat to go into the chicken, right? But you need to cook the outside. Well, it's sort of the same thing, except you want the water to get into those. Sort of the opposite. But when you have that really fresh coffee, all that carbon dioxide, all that gas is sort of keeping the water from getting into the grinds. So if you let it sit and degas a little bit, it's much easier to extract consistently, and it's better coffee, honestly.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so I think that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I mean, I don't know. They just seem like a really well built machine. First of all, I don't know if you can speak to the quality of it. Have you had any issues with it as far as like breaking or program problems or computer issues or anything with it? Or
So not computer issues. We have had problems with it, but not problems that are really. So the one thing you have to know about this machine is it doesn't have IR burners like this machine over here. It has a cyclone. And depending on your gas in your particular building or wherever you're running this machine, you kind of need to dial it in. And gas delivery can change throughout the year also. We have Con Edison up here, so the amount of gas you get or the pressure that you get can vary slightly. It's not that drastic, but we've had to kind of tweak the gas a little bit. We also had one time where it wouldn't actually start up unless we manually actuated this part in the roaster, which made it work, but it was not what it wasn't like what it should be. And eventually what we found out, there are these tubes that came out of the cyclone and go up to another area in the roaster that tell it like what to do in the beginning phases, because it purges. It does it initially when you push warm up. One other thing about this machine is that it warms up on its own. It like will ping between a high and a low, and you can walk away. I mean, yeah, you come back and check it, but you can walk away and do other things like set up batches, green batches, or brew some coffee or what have you, do an email or two. But it wouldn't purge correctly, and then it wouldn't light the burner properly. And eventually what we found out is that these little tubes were they were clogged. Something had gotten into them. Sometimes we have a lot of wind, chaff can get up there, or whatever it was, it got clogged. So we had done all these things. We had taken parts out, put new parts in. Loring is really, really good about customer support. So they were always helping us out, but we couldn't figure it out until one day somebody was like, why don't you check those little tubes, and see if that's causing a problem. And lo and behold, that was the problem. We changed out a tube and it was like, it was like weeks of like, why is this not working? And then all of a sudden it was a little tube. Yeah. So, but look, all in all, this machine is phenomenal. Like I would encourage anybody who can get this type of machine to get this machine or one of their machines, their 7 or their 15 or their 35.
Yeah, that's been my thing too, deciding on whether to start low at the 7 or to just, pay a little bit more and get the 15 and kind of grow into it. But
I always think it's better to have something that you can grow into.
Yeah.
Because if your business mindset is that I'll only be here, then you'll only be there. Yeah. But if you have something you have to grow into, then your business mindset is like, I got to fill this thing up. Wow, what do I got to go? I got to go out and get some business.
Let me go sell.
And it just changes how you kind of go about it. I used to have this mentality where like, if I just do a good job, I'll make the money that I need to make. And that's not how it works. You need to be focused on doing a good job, and making money is the symptom of doing a good job and having a good rapport with your customers or whatever. But you still got to be focused on like, what do I got to do to get the business? Right. It's like the drop shipping thing. Like I didn't even think about it until somebody said it. I was like, oh wow, that's something we can do. I can sell coffee. Like, the other thing I never understood, and sorry to cut you off, but is that people are, especially in specialty coffee, people are very sort of like, they're very proud. I won't have a dark roast, or I won't do this, or I won't do that, or I won't only sell coffee to people who brew coffee this way. And I'm like, I sell coffee. I try and sell the best coffee I can. I try and buy the best coffee I can. I try and roast the best way. But I'm not going to alienate a potential customer because I'm too proud to sell a dark roast.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do the best dark roast that I can do. Something that I would appreciate drinking. But I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. I just don't, that to me doesn't make any sense, especially if you're a business owner. If it's just a hobby, fine, just do it as a hobby. But I support a family on this business, and I help support other people on this business. So I can't be like that.
Yeah, I kind of found that out too. In the beginning, I was kind of that mindset where I'm only going to roast light coffee, when I was starting out. And then I realized I'm down here in Louisiana, everybody likes dark coffee. So if you don't at least put an option out there, you're missing out on a lot, and it's like, for what, ego, Yeah. I mean,
doesn't make any sense. And by the way, the person who likes your dark roast will come back and maybe try your light roast. And maybe you'll convince them that, hey, man, there's something out there other than the dark roast.
Right.
But if you do a good dark roast, then who cares? I mean, people like what they like. If don't ever put milk. I never understood cafes that don't offer milk and sugar. Why? It's not your coffee, it's their coffee.
Yeah.
Don't tell somebody how to drink their coffee.
Everybody likes it different. Yeah, that's definitely it. As far as like picking your coffee and stuff, I was going through your blog and I saw you've kind of been to, I think it was El Salvador, maybe some other places. Do you go down? Did you? I know you probably haven't been, since the COVID stuff and all, but is that what you used to do? Kind of go down there and pick coffees and everything, or how do you pick coffees now?
So I did go to El Salvador one time. I've never been to Origin other than that.
Okay.
The idea that people go to Origin all the time and pick their coffees, it's a cool thing. I'm sure a lot of people do it. It doesn't make sense for a lot of people though. We're again a small company. I don't buy an enormous amount of coffee. I can't fill a container on my own. And frankly, I like to have a variety of options in terms of what I'm searching for. So I don't have the means to go to Africa and Ethiopia or go to Central South America or go all over the world to find specific coffees just for me. I rely on amazing, very sort of competent exporters and importers. That being said, I do have communication with a bunch of farmers that we buy coffee from. So it's not like I'm not like in communication with some of them. Like for El Salvador, I get on WhatsApp and text German at his farm and ask him to send me pre-ship samples of the coffee that he has for this season. And then he has an importer here in the States who handles the import, and I buy it directly from them after I've sort of talked to him and decided what I want. So I have those relationships in some cases, but I don't go to Origin. It's a lot more effort than people think. You're still going to have an importer bring it in. You're still, and then there's all the financial aspects of importing coffee on your own. There's a lot to it, and frankly, I'm good at roasting coffee. I'm not good at like importing coffee and managing that. And I want to have options. I want to go to one of my vendors who I import, buy coffee from, and be like, can you send me 5 Ethiopian samples? I wouldn't have time to go to 5 different farms or washing mills and meet all these people and decide. Some people do it. That's like their thing. That's not my thing. I have a young family. It's hard for me to get away. Yeah, also, but if the opportunity presents itself, I'd love to. I mean, there's an opportunity to possibly go to Guatemala. I don't know if I'll be able to do it this year, but hopefully in the future with one of my vendors. I work with a company called Onyx. I get all my Guatemalans from them, and they do Origin trips. And I would love to go on Origin trips more, but I don't necessarily do it just to buy coffee. I didn't go to El Salvador originally to buy coffee. It was an opportunity that presented itself, and I took it, and I did meet a great farmer and family, and I do buy coffee from them. But that wasn't like the reason why I went down initially.
Gotcha. So then as far as roasting, are there any coffees that you just like to roast that are kind of, ones that you just enjoy roasting more than others?
I think that one of our we use Guatemala quite a bit. Guatemala has become a very sort of key coffee for us. We use it as a single origin, but then we also create blends with it. So we roast a lot of Guatemala, and it's just a really good, our concept has always been unique but approachable. I don't get into all these different processing methods. There's a lot of roasters out there that want to do all kind, roast coffees that are, all these different processing methods. I'm a washed coffee guy. I'm not a big fan of naturals. I will buy some honeys, semi-washed every now and then, but typically all washed coffees. And I enjoy those coffees. We have Ethiopia on our menu very consistently. I enjoy that coffee a lot as well. But I want it to be a coffee that is approachable to a lot of people. I don't want it to be like a fruit bomb. I've never believed in roasting so light that it's like this, sucking on a lemon, these high acid coffees. That's never been my thing. I roast coffee to, of course, maximize the flavor of the coffee, or at least the flavors that I like in the coffee. But I want a very balanced coffee. It's like like a salad dressing. You don't want any, you want it to be a balanced salad dressing. You want to have enough acid and enough, oil and all these other things. So
Right.
it's, anybody will enjoy it. You don't want to have it be too high here or too low there. So when I get a coffee, I'm looking for balance, looking for sweetness. I'm looking for approachability. I'm also looking for that sort of tinge of uniqueness that makes the average person like, wow, this is delicious. I've never really had a coffee like this, because frankly, most people don't drink specialty coffee. Most people don't drink coffee with these unique flavor profiles, even a little bit. I mean, a lot of people just drink dark coffee or some sort of store brand coffee, these very basic commodity coffees that don't have these sort of tinges of uniqueness, or very, very clean coffees, that we buy, or, and so just by doing that, I think, especially with drop shippers, they want to have a coffee that they can sell easily, right? And so that's the same thing for me. I want to have coffee that people really enjoy drinking, that they can go back, have a morning cup, an afternoon cup, an evening cup, and not be like, can only really have one or two sips of this and sort of force themselves to drink it because it's cool.
Right.
I want them to actually enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, so as kind of moving into your like the social media and stuff, I kind of see you're doing with the YouTube channel and all that. Do you feel that's kind of helping promote? I mean, so you're probably not advertising or spending much money in advertising with the drop shipping stuff, like you said. Most of that's probably through the education on YouTube and stuff like that, or
Yes. Yeah, through our YouTube channel, which frankly I've been slacking on. It's something I really got to do a lot more of. I like doing interviews as well. So I do interviews with some drop shippers, and I do have some interviews up there with some drop shippers.
yeah, so
I have some in the can that I've got to kind of upload and stuff like that. But I definitely want to do more sort of specific videos about maybe coffee business, or, things like that, that people would be interested in. But yeah, the YouTube channel has attracted a bunch of potential customers through the drop shipping part of our business, and our blogging. I tried to do as much blogging as I can. I haven't done a bunch in a little while, but through the SEO and people searching on Google and us kind of showing up at the top, we've been able to attract a decent amount of customers without spending a dime. We actually did try Facebook once. It bombed miserably. And I'm not a big fan of doing that anymore, because I don't have to. It seems like what we do is working well, and if it stops working well, we'll do something else. We're pretty quick to pivot if need be. I'm definitely not a person who's like, I got to do it this way all the time.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's super cool. So like that's one thing I've kind of realized too, is like SEO. I mean, if you can master that and get a good, idea on what the keywords are, and like, create a blog or even a YouTube video, because like it pushes you up to the top on Google search so much.
It does. And frankly, with drop shipping, there isn't a lot of competition out there. I mean, yes, there are other companies that do it, but I think we've really refined the process. And I'm not going to pat myself on the back too much, but I think we are the gold standard of drop shippers. If you were to compare us to other drop shippers out there, you would see that we do offer a really, really good competitive program. Can we improve? Of course, every business can improve, and we always look to improve. But I think right now we're really good. And I think with the quality of the coffee that we supply, the service, the one thing about us is that we've always looked at ourselves as a customer service business that happens to sell really good coffee. So people want to be able to talk to a real person if they have a problem or a question, or just initial conversations about, what is your drop shipping program about? We have extensive FAQs that we point people to get sort of a primer on our program. But if they have other questions, then we are there to answer them. And my wife is basically heads up that entire sort of account support, and she kind of organizes and manages the whole program. And then I kind of manage the back end of it, sourcing, roasting, getting the product out the door.
Sounds like a lot of work, which kind of leads me into my next question. About how many hours are y'all putting in a week now versus like maybe when you started? I think you said you started in 2013.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I mean, me personally, I put in a lot of hours. I mean, probably 40, 50 hours, 60 hours a week. Sometimes I'll come in late. Like the last part of the year, 2021. We didn't get to go away on our vacation, unfortunately. So we did sort of a staycation. So I had Sal would come in during the day and he would do some work, and I would, because we were here, I was able to come into work, but I would come into work late. I'd come in at like 8 o'clock at night, and I'd roast, or I'd do emails, or I'd do whatever I had to do. And, I take work home with me on my laptop. And so you're always kind of working. If you're an owner, you're always working, you're always thinking about stuff, always, and my wife and I work together. So we're always talking about stuff, and, she's telling me something to do, and I'm telling her things that I'm doing. And so.
What has been your hardest, I guess, maybe like issue or thing to kind of get past with, owning your own business and starting out? Like, was there any pivotal things where you're like, man, I don't know if I want to do this, or have you always just like been gung ho and kind of just making it happen?
There was a period in time where we had an employee who was integral to the business. There's 2 times. And that person left, and that was good. Actually, it was a very good thing that person left for a few reasons, but one, it kind of lit a fire under my butt and got me focused on different aspects of the business that I wasn't so focused on. And the one thing that you have to do as a young business is you have to make sure that if somebody's not around, that doesn't stop your business, that there's no one person who can control your business and your ability to produce a product and get a product to the customer. And so again, with the lowering, with Cropster, nobody can stop us from roasting coffee. And so that's really important. And so that was one thing that was difficult, but we got through it, and it was actually a great thing. The second thing is, as a small business, is cash flow is king. The one thing, you're spending a lot of money up front investing, and you've got debt in your business and stuff like that. You need cash. Cash needs to come into your business every single week, one way or the other. If you have weeks with no cash coming in, you're in trouble, because you've got bills. You got to pay yourself something. This is not a hobby. You got to take money home for your family. Kids want to eat every day, surprisingly. And so cash is king. And so I would advise anybody to never offer terms, especially to like restaurants, cafes. It's just an opportunity for people just to not pay you on time. And frankly, you don't need to wait 30 days for your money. They don't wait 30 days for their money. They sell a cup of coffee, they get cash. They should have their profit built in there. They should know what they're doing, hopefully. So we only take credit cards from people. There's one legacy customer that I have that it does have terms, but I have had them for a long time, and they're a large business, very well run, and I never worry about getting paid from them. So I don't offer terms anymore, but this is a legacy customer, like I said, so I'm not going to be able to change them. And that's fine, because thankfully they're a very good customer, and they do pay me when they have to pay me. But I would encourage everybody to really focus on cash flow. Free cash flow is really important. Make sure that you have money coming in, credit cards, you drop coffee off, they give you a check or give you cash out of the till, whatever it is. You got to get cash every day coming into your business, because that's how you grow. You need to have money in your business, liquidity, to go do stuff. And so that's something that you have to learn early on. And I didn't learn it early on because I offered terms to everybody, because that's what everybody asked for, or that's what I thought was appropriate. But at some point, it's better not to have a customer than to put your finances on the line for that customer. You sell somebody a lot of coffee and they don't pay you, you're screwed.
Yeah.
They got their money. They got their money because they sold it.
I remember it's like the cash flow, even for big business, I didn't realize how kind of important it was. But I remember during the financial crisis, we were even pushing, at my place of employment, like trying to get these net terms, extended out on the vendors we were using, so we don't have to pay you for 60 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely.
like, geez, we just start thinking about that. Like, you're not giving somebody money for 60 days, and that's after invoicing plus this, and you could be waiting 3 months before you get your money. So
yeah. And look, we're lucky. And look, I don't do it. Other people do it that we work with. And thankfully we do get terms, but we try and respect it as much as possible. There are times when maybe we're a few days late, but I've never been so late that somebody's like, hey, why are you not paying us anymore? Or something like that.
Right.
We try and do our best to get money out the door as fast as possible. But for us personally, we don't offer terms.
Yeah.
It's just, and the moment you stop offering terms and take credit cards, do the cash thing or do the check thing, your business will be so much more, solid. You create a really solid foundation where you can go and invest in your business, or you can pay off your debt, because that debt has interest attached to it,
right.
and the last thing you want to do is have to pay so much more for the same item that you could have paid down. If you could shave off a couple of years on the payment for a machine or equipment or whatever, that's could be thousands of dollars that you save. Now, you might not realize it right away, but in the long term, it matters. It does
Right.
matter.
Yeah. And then, I guess with that being said, what are your goals going forward? Like, what's your, 5-10 years? What are you trying to do with it?
I mean, my goal is to be the biggest drop shipper in the industry, the biggest and the best, offer the best quality product, the best service. We're always
That's your
looking for
main
ways.
focus then is the drop shipping.
So I see drop shipping as the other thing about a business that's really important is to not put all your eggs into one basket. You can never let one customer determine your fate.
Right.
There are some businesses out there that have that one customer that eats up 50% of their revenue. And that's super dangerous, because those people, as much as you think they're your best friends, you have great relationships with them, they can walk anytime they want. Unless you have some ironclad contract, which nobody does,
Yeah.
they're not obligated to stay with you. So while I do focus on wholesale, and I appreciate that business 100%, that's really important business to what we do. I see the drop shipping as a real big part of our business going forward, because I look at it sort of like, it's like the moat around our castle. It's like this onion, this multiple layers of safety. If one big wholesale customer goes away, that's painful. That's really painful. And knock on wood, that doesn't happen to us. But nothing is set in stone. But if a drop shipper leaves me and I've got 100, 200, 1,000 of them, it's not as painful. It's like Walmart doesn't make all their money from one person walking in the door. They make their money from 1 million people walking in the door. If one person chooses not to come to Walmart that week, Walmart doesn't feel it.
Yeah.
And so that's the important part of building my business, at least, is that I want that security that I know that money is coming in every single week. And that if somebody doesn't sell a bag or 10 or doesn't want to continue, or it doesn't affect my business. It doesn't affect my life. It doesn't affect anything. They're all very important to me, but I can't be so beholden to any one of them that if they go away, it affects my livelihood.
Right.
And so that's why I see it as the future of our business, while we also grow our wholesale business. And the drop shipping has also helped us with wholesale, because those people who are motivated go out and get wholesale accounts, and then they come to us. So we fulfill those wholesale orders.
Gotcha.
We might not make the same margin on that coffee, but we're moving coffee. We're constantly moving coffee. And like I said, the cash flow is really important.
Yeah. I think that's one thing. One thing I've learned too is just like, if you have a machine, like at work, we got some machines. It's like, if the machine has to be running at all times, the longer it's running, the more you're putting through it. I mean, just that quantity, like you're going to make more at the end of the year.
That machine is a moneymaker. Every time coffee goes in it and comes out it, that means money in my pocket. It might not mean money tomorrow, but that coffee is going to get sold. I don't roast coffee just for the heck of it.
So as far as that machine, like, are you close to being maxed out on that one, and if you got another one, would you get a bigger size, or would you just get another S15, you think?
Definitely not maxed out on this machine. This machine can pump out an enormous amount of coffee. I mean, you can imagine if you were to work 40 hours a week on this machine, and I can do 4 batches every hour, that's 100 pounds of roasted coffee every single hour, because there's the shrink, obviously. 30 pounds goes in, about 25 pounds comes out. We weigh every batch. That's a lot of coffee. We don't sell that much coffee every single week.
Yeah.
My goal is to sell that much coffee every single week, but we don't right now. So there's a lot more we can roast on this machine. I would say that if and when we do max out on this machine, we'd probably, I don't know, maybe we'd get another one the same size, 15. I'm not sure.
Because I know
Maybe
they
a
got the
35.
S35.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I don't know. I mean, maybe we get the 35 because then I can use the 35 to cut my production time in half. So instead of going to, instead of doing 30-pound batches, I do 60-pound batches, same coffee.
Yeah.
You can translate profiles pretty easily between machine. One of the good things about the Loring, it's a closed system. It's very consistent. They're using all the same probes. They're using all the same software. The machine is essentially the same. It's just scaled a little bit bigger. So if I have a profile that runs me, 12 and a half minutes and it's hitting these points along the way, I could most likely translate that to a 35 kilo. And, obviously maybe a few tweaks here and there, but I think we'd get pretty close initially.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe a 35, but right now we're pretty set on this machine. I think the bottleneck for us right now is always just packing. We just invested in automated packing, basically a weigh and fill system, an automated weigh and fill system. We do everything by hand, but we needed a machine that would at least weigh and fill. It weighs it out, and then we hit a foot pedal, and then it opens up a gate and fills a bag. And we were able to scale our ability to pack bags, so much more than what we were doing before that machine. So, those little investments, you can do a lot more with what you have. And that's really important. You put your money into things that are going to increase your revenue. I mean, there's equipment out there that I would love to buy. There's no way for me to make more money by having it. It's cool. I would love to have it. It might improve slightly, some quality, like maybe the Pearl Mini, which is an optical sorter from Softa, would be a cool piece of equipment to have. It would clean up some Quakers. Right now we have to manually pick Quakers out of the coffee, and we were lucky enough that our coffees are relatively clean. I mean, every coffee is going to have Quakers, no matter how much you pay for it. You're always going to find a Quaker or just something that didn't roast right, or a black bean that got stuck somewhere. But but that machine, I'm not going to charge more for it. I can't like up the price of my coffee to my customers because I ran it through that machine. That machine's like 40 grand. So right now we're focused on, if you're going to buy a piece of equipment, it's got to add value, and it's got to be something that we can see some level of return. If I can make a person pack more bags in an hour, there's a return on that.
Yeah.
In terms of labor and what they're able to produce in that amount of time. So
yeah. One more question about the drop shipping. Are y'all like, is there restrictions on like geography? Can somebody from California use you in New York? I mean, there's no
restrictions. We typically sell to people in the States, as far as our customers go, but we have customers who are in the States, in Canada. I think we have some overseas. I can't tell you for sure, but 90%, 99% of our customers are in the States. You can be anywhere in the States, Hawaii, even, it doesn't really matter to me, frankly.
Oh, that's cool.
We use the post office a lot to ship coffee, flat rate mailers. As long as post office ships there, it's the same price. And we do have we've refined our shipping process. So we ship worldwide. I will say that people who sell coffee overseas, it's very expensive to ship coffee overseas these days. But if that's what they want to do, if they want to sell it to somebody in Europe or in Asia or where have you, we'll ship it. And so we don't restrict anybody, but typically all of our customers are in the States. And I mean, we work with anybody, people who want to be, who are passionate about coffee, who want to be in the business, who appreciate what we do. That's what we care about.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if y'all was kind of just tailoring to the New York area, the New England area, or so it's everywhere then.
No,
that's cool.
It's nationwide. Anybody and anybody. Yeah.
All right. Last question before we wrap it up then. I'm just kind of curious. What was your first roaster to start on?
This Dietrich right here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So my father owns a coffee company. And this was a machine that they bought a long time ago,
Okay.
and they used it occasionally. But when we started Path, this is what we had access to, so we used it.
Oh,
And so this is
nice.
what we were using up until sort of early last year when we got this machine,
Gotcha. So you got
sort
to
of in the
skip
height
the
of
beans and
COVID.
days and all that then, huh?
Yeah, I didn't even know about those machines, frankly,
Yeah.
until I started. I'm like, I'm learning about them now, but no, I didn't get into it. I mean, we have a small roaster. We have an Ikawa for our sample roasting and stuff like that. That's 50 grams. It's as small as it gets for us. But no, I never got into that. It just wasn't something that I had to get into because I had access to this machine here.
How do you like the Kawa real quick? Does it transfer over to the Loring pretty good?
No, the idea that you can transfer it, it's a totally different machine. The best you can do is maybe you can see what the coffee will taste like at
Yeah.
certain roast profiles and stuff like that. But ultimately, you got to roast batches on this thing.
To find
You
it.
got to roast it on your yeah. Anybody who thinks that they can translate from a small roaster that doesn't have a bean probe, that's just totally built differently, to a machine like this, or even a machine like this, you're kidding yourself. You've got to be willing to put some coffee into these machines and roast it and see what happens, and
Yeah.
if you don't like it, then you donate it, or you drink it yourself, or you give it to friends and family. But you got to put coffee in these machines, and you got to turn it on and roast it and see what it tastes like. And yeah, I mean, you can see what it's going to taste like on the Ikawa. You can do different profiles on it and spend all day, doing all that stuff, but you're not going to translate it apples to apples at all.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you can do it from like an S7 Loring to an S15 to an S35. I suspect that would be a lot easier to translate profiles because of the way that they're built. Again, the thermocouples, the placement, all that stuff is very consistent. But again, it's still, it's a big difference in terms of batch size and so I don't know. I've never tried to do that, but maybe it's easier with that with the same machine manufacturer. But from an Ikawa to a Loring, there's no way. You cup it, and then you're like, I like this coffee. I'm going to buy this coffee. I like the flavors of this coffee. Okay, let me see if I can replicate it here as close as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too. I mean, 50 grams, you can try a bunch, from little samples, get a pound of coffee or something, and
Yeah,
you can definitely kind of see what you like. So
yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
Well,
But
Jason, before we wrap it up, any last things you want to kind of go over or talk about or anything?
no, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to talk with you about our business and introduce to your subscribers and people that watch your channel. It's awesome you're doing this, and you guys so you said you're opening a place soon.
Yeah, I'm trying to hopefully by the end of the year, but I know how things work, so I'm not, if it goes into the next year, 2023, I'm first month or so, as long as I can kind of get it open between then. But yeah, I'm working on got all my pricing pretty much now, so going to the business plan lady and we're kind of getting all that submitted. Want to go to the bank, see what we can do, and yeah, hopefully I don't know, next couple months, get things under contract and get some contractors building out and seeing what we can do. So
What machine are you looking at?
I'm looking at between the S7 and the S15. Now I've also been looking at the San Franciscan, Diedrich, and a bunch of other ones, US roasters. But
Yep.
I don't know. It's just kind of like what you're saying. Like, I have family too, and I got 3 kids. And I remember there was one time whenever I had my little business going, like my daughter was in the hospital for a couple of days, and it was like production stopped because like you can't teach if nobody knows how to roast on your machine, you can't teach anybody in a day, to get what you was putting out. So that's one thing with family and stuff like that. My wife's family is from LA. So I don't know. I kind of want something where if we do go back to California, I can still, have somebody roasting and stuff like that. So I do like that. That's kind of automated, but you can still have that artisan type feel where you can find what you want, change what you want, and make it how you want, but then kind of automate everything else. So I'm kind of leaning towards the S15. Depending on what the bank says and how much they'll, wind up giving me, I may go with the S7, just kind of starting out, but we'll see. So,
well, it's security. I found it to be a very, it makes you feel like you're secure. Your business is secure because
yeah,
I can I mean, technically you can have almost anybody do it. You could walk them through the process of literally finding the profile, pushing it, and charging the coffee. And this
Right.
charges automatically also. So it's like, you don't even have to do that. You like literally load the coffee up and you set it, and it hits a charge temperature, and it loads it into the roaster. It roasts it, and it'll turn on the fan. It'll turn on the cooling tray, and it'll discharge the coffee at the exact same temperature every single time. And yeah, just that's all it does.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of the things. It is a good bit more expensive. So kind of like what you were saying too, at one point, investment wise, how fast can you make your money back? How much are you saving on gas and stuff like that? And so that's kind of why I want
Definitely.
to, run the numbers and just kind of see what everything is. And I mean, from your other machine, your Diedrich, like to this one, gas wise, what are you kind of saving? Is it noticeable or not really?
So we're in a big facility here. I actually have no idea how much gas this thing used, but I know it was a lot more than this thing. This
Okay.
thing, because it has the cyclone and it just returns the air, the hot
Right.
air, it's known to save you a substantial amount of money on gas. I can't give you a number because I really don't know what it is, but I know that it does save a lot of money on gas. So if you were to actually calculate it, you would see a savings, I'm sure. But yeah, and environmentally, it's also really good because it doesn't really put any smoke out. It incinerates all the smoke, all the chaff falls into the barrel, and it is basically has a built-in afterburner.
Right.
That thing gets up to 1500 plus degrees, and so it's incinerating all the smoke. So not very much is coming out of the stack. And it's built to California environmental standards. In California, those air standards are
Oh
very,
yeah.
very high, probably the highest in the country as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So it meets those standards, and so anywhere you put this machine is going to be environmentally much more friendly than a lot of other machines that you could
Yeah.
buy.
Yeah, because I'm down here in Louisiana and we're pretty laxed on, pretty much any standard. So, but my thing is like you never know. Like within 3 years, some could change, and all of a sudden you're having to fork out more money to get some afterburner or whatever. So it's like it's
And
just trying to
afterburner
think
takes a
of
lot of gas, also.
it's just trying to think of all the issues that may be coming up, and trying to plan and make the best decision that you can now that you may not be having to worry about 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. So
I think it's always good to just when you're going to start your roastery, just look 5 years down the road and say, where do I want to be? And the equipment I buy today, don't just buy it for production today.
right.
Buy it for production 5 years down the road, or whatever that time frame is. But
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, it's got to be, you got to buy it for that period of time down the road where you grow into it. I think that's much better.
Right, exactly. Just kind of grow into it. And that's my whole thing is, I'm to that point now where I've realized like most things in life that you pursue, as long as you have like a long frame mindset, like I'm going to hit it for 5 to 10 years. And at that point I'll, adjust, see where I'm at and see if it's, working out and everything. But I feel like you have to definitely always plan long term, because that's the only way to
Yeah.
really make any of this kind of work out. Even social media, the YouTube, any of it. Like if you everything's got to be so long-term thinking. It's really the only way to kind of make it all work out. So
Yeah, I also think, just to go back to this roaster really quick, in terms of the long-term plan, like let's say you do get into this business and you're like, you know what, after 5 or 10 years, it's not really for me. I'm really not interested in this anymore. And you want to sell this piece of equipment here. I think that your return would actually be higher than if you were to go with a different roaster. It's extremely powerful. It can be updated with software. The physical structure is not moving. It's just paddles inside a solid tube that's welded to the front and back plates. So you don't have to worry about a lot of other parts kind of getting out of line and stuff like that, which is why it's also extremely consistent. And so I think that the money that you would get back on this machine, while you wouldn't get the same money that you paid on it necessarily, it has, I think, it would retain its value a lot more than, say, another machine. It's really easy to clean, to maintain. There's a lot of benefits to it. So, I mean, I would encourage anybody who's interested in a professional commercial roaster to give it a serious consideration.
yeah.
Whether it's a 7, a 15, 35, or the 70, my experience has been great. And the coffee coming out of it is delicious.
Yeah, that's one thing. I mean, I remember when I first had coffee from a Loring, it was just different.
Yeah.
It's clean, it's crisp, I don't know, it just has that different taste to it. And
Somebody asked me one time, can you roast dark on it? And I was like, yeah, just roast it longer and darker. It's like, it's a machine. It doesn't know. It doesn't know. It's just like so I always thought that was kind of funny because people only thought that, you're roasting light on this machine. So how could you roast dark on it? I'm like, just roast it to a higher temperature and longer, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those misconceptions. A lot of people that have a Loring, they really only, a lot of them only roast really light coffee, it seems like. So it's kind of one of those things. Maybe people do think you can only do light coffee on there, but
no, you can do anything.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Jason, dude, man, this is a good conversation, dude. Truly appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I'll link all your stuff down below. And
appreciate it.
You got your YouTube channel and all that going on. Definitely go subscribe to him. And you got your blog and all that. I'm going to look through because I saw you had something else on there about the Loring. Definitely going to be reading up on that over this next week.
Definitely tried to put as much information in there for anybody who's looking to get a Loring, as much information as I could, even some pricing in there, what the things you need to know about. I'm probably going to update it a little bit now that I've had the machine for a little while now, add some more stuff to it. So
yeah, super cool, dude. Well, I appreciate you being on, buddy.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it also.
Have a good one, Jason.
You too. Take care.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Coffee Runs Deep podcast. I learned a lot from Jason and I took a ton of notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review. And thank you to my patrons that help support these episodes. It helps with all the costs that add up and it keeps these episodes coming. Hope you have a wonderful weekend and I will see you next week. Please subscribe to stay informed. Love you guys and see ya.